أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين علي ولي الله. أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين علي حجة الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. حي على خير العمل. حي على خير العمل. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. اللهم اجعل قلبي دارا وعملي سارا وشكارا ورزقي دارا وأولادي برارا واجعل عند قبر نبيك مستقرا وقرارا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يوصينا معه العدون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بهد الهمم ولا يناله غوص الفتن الذي ليس لصفته حد محدود ولا نعت موجود ولا وقت محدود ولا أجل ممدود فترى الخلائق بقدرته ونشر رياح برحمته ووتد بالسخر ميدان عرض ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وحبيبنا وحبيب رب العالمين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعن على أعدائهم أجمعين من أول يوم ظلمهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المبين وقوله الحق: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل لا أسألكم عليه أجرا إلا المودة في القربى. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Dear brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, not tomorrow, but Sunday will be the shahadat, or one of the dates of shahadat of Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam. There are two dates that we have. One is the 15th of Shawal. The second date is the 25th of Shawal. And because both of those dates, we have both of those dates, and inshallah we will have a lecture in Urdu in Babulilm on Sunday. So it's only becoming that I, for Friday prayers, or I look at the life of Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam and see what lessons that we can learn from the holy Imam. But to begin with, this holy personality, it doesn't matter what school of thought you belong to. The four schools of thought in Sunni Islam or the Shias themselves, it doesn't matter what school of thought you belong to. This personality, Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, every Muslim is in debt to Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam. Why? Why do I say this? We as Shias, we get our fiqh from whom? Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam. Sunni school of thought, at least two of the Imams of the Sunni school of thought, those two Imams of the Sunnis, they studied under Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam. Abu Hanifa, who's one of the more famous Imams of the Sunni school of thought, he himself, he says, if it wasn't for those 2 years, he spent 2 years under the guidance or learning under Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam. He himself, he says, if it wasn't for those 2 years, then Noman, his name was Noman, he says that Noman would have perished. Noman would have perished. So Abu Hanifa, he himself, he admits what? That at the very least, we know that he spent 2 years learning from Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam as one of his students. But what did he learn from the Imam? That's the question. If he truly learned from the Imam, then he wouldn't have differed in his fiqh from what the Imam was saying. If he truly learned from the Imam, then he wouldn't have differed in his aqaid from what the Imam was saying. But he himself, he said, if it wasn't for those 2 years, I myself would have perished. And inshallah, we'll look at the life of Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam and one of the debates that the Imam had with Abu Hanifa. But to begin with, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, from a very young age, what did he used to do? He used to go and sit in Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam's lectures from a very young age. The very first incident that we have of the sixth Imam going and learning is when he was 3 years old. When he was 3 years old, where were the lectures happening? In Medina. Where in Medina? In Masjid al-Nabawi. That's where Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam, that's where Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, that's where they were giving their lectures. These two Imams, they propagated Islam the way it needed to be propagated. What do I mean? They had that time. Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, what time did he have? He propagated Islam through du'as. He propagated Islam through du'as. Imam Hussain alayhi salam, he propagated Islam through sacrificing himself. Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he propagated Islam through what? After Amir al-Mu'mineen, he was Khalifa for 6 months. He had Khilafat for at the very least 6 months. But then what happened? What happened? Muawiyah alayhi, he had put him under house arrest basically. Everything that the Imam was doing, it was being scrutinized. So the Imam, was he able to propagate Islam the same way Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam did? The same way Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam? No, he didn't. But what was special in that time period? What was special was in that time period, Banu Abbas and Banu Umayyah, they were fighting for power. And because they were fighting for power, they weren't looking to see what the Imam was doing, as they were doing in Muawiyah's time, as they were doing in Yazid's time. So because of this time, Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam, he was able to propagate Islam the way it needs to be propagated. Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, he was able to propagate Islam the way it needed to be propagated. But one of the first incidents that we have from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, and if you look at the lives of the Imams, so many people, they have kids, but they don't bring them to the centers. They don't bring them to the centers. If you look at the lives of the Imams, look at Amir al-Mu'minin's life. Imam Hassan, Imam Hussain, they would be where? In the masjid. They would go to the masjid. They'd learn from whom? The Holy Prophet. They'd learn from where? Amir al-Mu'minin. At a very young age. We Shias, we hold them to be our Imams. If you hold them to be your Imams, you want to learn life lessons from them, then do what they did. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he was in the masjid at a very young age. What do our Shias do? Our kids are at home. Our kids are at home, they're learning Islam from where? From outside of where they need to learn Islam from. They're learning Islam from where? School. When you learn Islam from the West, in the West, you have to remember that they're looking at Islam from a certain point of view. And a child that goes to school here, all the way until college, they're going to be fed that point of view about Islam. But when you come to the madrasa, when you come to the masjid, you'll get Islam from the point of view of someone who was a Muslim their whole life. Not someone who was a convert, not someone who's just analyzing Islam for the sake of analyzing. No. You'll get Islam the way the Imams had told to be propagated. But what does the Imam do? Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he's 3 years old. He goes and he sits in his father, Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam, alaykum salam wa rahmatullah. He sits in his father's lecture. And the Imam, he wasn't lecturing only on fiqh. The Imams, they didn't only lecture on fiqh. No, the Imams, they lectured on everything from fiqh all the way to the sciences. They lectured on astronomy. They lectured on chemistry. They lectured on biology. They lectured on philosophy. They lectured on fiqh. They lectured on aqaid. They lectured on every aspect that this individual, this human being, will look at in their own life. Not just fiqh. So the Imam, when he was there listening to the lecture, the Khalifa, the Khalifa of that time, he comes, Abdul Malik bin Marwan. He comes and he's sitting in that same lecture, and he sees the Imam is giving the lecture, Imam Muhammad Baqir, he's giving the lecture, and he sees that there's a 3-year-old sitting in that lecture. He asks his representative of Medina, this child that is sitting in this lecture, does he understand what is being said? This child, does he understand what is being said? He's asking his representative. And his representative, he tells them, he understands better than all of these sheikhs that you see that are sitting in this lecture. Sheikh meaning the elders that you see. He understands better than the elders that you see in this lecture. So the Khalifa, he was astonished. There's a 3-year-old boy. And his representative is saying that this 3-year-old boy understands the lectures better than the 40, the 50, the 60-year-olds that are sitting in this lecture. So what does he do? He tests them. So he calls the kid, Walid. He calls the Imam over, Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, and he asks him a few questions just to test him. The first question he asks is, who is the founder of logic? Who is the founder of logic? The Imam, without hesitation, he replies that Aristotle was named the founder of logic by his students and his disciples and his friends. Aristotle. Without hesitation, a 3-year-old, he says that. And then Walid, he asks him, do you know who Ma'az is? This is history of logic. When he was asked, he answers. Now, Walid, he asked, do you know who Ma'az is. And the Imam, he goes, Ma'az is not a person. Ma'az is a cluster of stars in this constellation. This is astronomy. And then Walid, he asked him, do you know who was known as Sahib al-Siwaq? Siwaq is the Arab toothbrush that people use. So he asked him, do you know who was known as Sahib al-Siwaq? And the Imam, he replies, yes, Abdullah ibn Masud, he was given that nickname. Islamic history was answered, astronomy was answered, and general knowledge was answered. When Walid, he couldn't come up with any more questions, he goes to Imam Muhammad Baqir and he tells him that this son of yours is going to be a great scientist one day. Like, that is something new for this household. If you look at the imams of this household, which one of them was not a great scientist of his time? Which one of them was not a great scientist? But the earliest that the imam was in the masjid at the age of 3, whereas we let our kids roam outside. Even if they want to play out here in the masjid, at the very least, they're here at the masjid. They get used to this atmosphere little by little. No one's saying that they need to be like the imam, bring them inside. Obviously, they're not going to be like that. They're kids, they want to pray. But what happens, they get used to this atmosphere. They get used to seeing these people. They get used to hearing what is being said. Little by little, what happens? When they grow up, they themselves, they want to come to the masjid themselves, without the parent ever telling them to go. Without the parent needing to tell them to go. But we don't understand this. Some of us, we're too busy. The kids, they're dying to come to the masjid, but we're too busy. We don't have time to bring them to the masjid. What will happen? Alaykum salam wa rahmatullah. What will happen to them? They will be asked, your son, your daughter, they wanted to go to the masjid. Why didn't you take them? And you saying, I was tired, will not do any good for you nor that kid. So the imam at the age of 3, as the imam was growing up, people that debated with Imam Muhammad Baqir or that wanted to debate with Imam Muhammad Baqir, when they would come, the imam, he would just point to his son. He go ask him this question. Go ask him that question. Why? Because he wanted everyone to know who the imam would be after him. If a Shia was to come and ask the imam a certain question, he would tell him, go ask my son. Every imam used to do this. Why? So those Shias would know who the imam is to be after them. If someone from the other schools of thought, they would come and ask the imam would say, go ask my son. Why? Because he wanted them to know, look, this son of ours, this 3-year-old, this 4-year-old, this 5-year-old has more knowledge than you do. This knowledge is the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have been given this knowledge. So why don't you accept us? When this 3-year-old son of mine, when this 4-year-old son of mine has this much knowledge, then why don't you accept that as a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Why don't you believe that we are on the right path? It is our wilayah that you need to accept. But as the years went by, like I said, Abu Hanifa, I don't have too much time, but Abu Hanifa, he was a student of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, and for 2 years he was a student of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. He comes one day, and he's sitting outside the gate of Imam's house. He sees a group of people go in, he's still waiting, he's waiting. And then finally he sees that group come out, and when another group goes in, he goes in with them. He goes in with them and he sits down with them. But when he sits down with them, the first thing he asks is, he says, Yabna Rasulullah, I've been to Kufa. I've been to Kufa, and your followers that are in Kufa, they curse the Sahaba openly. Tell them to stop. They curse the Sahaba openly, tell them to stop. The Imam, he says, they won't listen to me. He doesn't say, I will tell them to stop. No, he says, they won't listen to me. Why? Because he needs to teach him a lesson. He says, they won't listen to me. And then he says, why won't they listen to you? You're the son, you're the grandson of the Holy Prophet. Why won't they listen to you? And he says, no man, you yourself, you don't listen to me. You yourself don't listen to me. Abu Hanifa, he was what? He was considered to be a scholar. The Awam al-Nas, they're not scholars. When Imam is trying to say, when the scholars themselves who studied underneath me, they don't listen to me. Why do these same scholars accept the people, the laymen, to listen to me? The scholars should be the first to listen to me. Why? Because they have more aql, they have more knowledge than the layman. But when you scholars such as yourself, you don't listen to me, what do you expect from them? So he says, they won't listen to me. And he goes, why won't they listen to you? He goes, you yourself. You don't listen to me. You came into my house without my permission. You sat down without my permission. Did I give you permission to come in? No, I did not. But you came in, you barged in. You sat down. Did you ask me permission to sit down? No, you didn't, but you just sat down. And he goes on, the Imam, he goes on to say that I hear that you give out your rulings not based on my opinion, but based on your own opinion. Is that true? You use qiyas to give opinion. He goes, yes, that's true. He goes, Ibn Rasulullah, that's true. And the Imam, he asked him 3 questions. And in these 3 questions, you realize why in our fiqh, qiyas is not accepted. When coming to fiqh conclusions, why qiyas is not accepted. What does the Imam say? He says, first question, tell me, what is more najis, urine or semen? What is more najis, urine or semen? And Abu Hanifa, he replies, urine. The Imam, this is why qiyas, the Imam, he says, if urine is more najis, then why is it that after someone urinates, all they have to do is wash the part of urination, but after they ejaculate, after semen comes out, they have to do ghusl of the whole body? If urine is more najis than semen, then shouldn't they do ghusl of the whole body? No, but it's the other way around. If you say urine is more najis, okay? Then why is it? This is qiyas. Then the Imam asks, okay, no problem. No problem. You don't know the answer? No problem. Tell me, what's worse? Murdering someone or zina? Murdering someone or fornication? Abu Hanifa, without hesitating, he says murdering. Murdering. So then the Imam asks, if that's true, if murdering is worse than zina, then why is that for murder you only need 2 gawa, you only need 2 witnesses, but for fornication, for zina, you need 4? For the worst thing, you only need 2 witnesses, but for the lesser worst, you need 4. Why is it? No answer. Then finally, he asked him, what's more rewarding? What's more rewarding, praying or fasting? What gives you more reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, praying or fasting? Abu Hanifa, he says prayer. He says prayer. Then the Imam, he says, if prayer is more rewarding, then why is it that when a woman is on her monthly menstrual cycle, she has to make up the missed fast, but she doesn't have to make up the missed prayers? It's more prayer is more rewarding, you say. If it's more rewarding, then shouldn't she have to make up the missed prayer? It's more rewarding, but no, that's not the case. She has to make up the missed fast. This is the qiyas. This is why qiyas is not accepted in our fiqh. But what do people do today? Shias. In all these examples are qiyas in fiqh. Qiyas in fiqh, all of these examples that the Imam gives us, qiyas in fiqh. When 2 things in fiqh you cannot do qiyas of, how is it that Shias today are doing qiyas for what? Fiqh and usul al-din. Meaning what? What's more important? Namaz or matam? Namaz or azadari? Shias today. What's more important? Prayer or azadari? Look at what the Imam is saying. 2 things in the same branch you cannot compare to each other. And you want to compare something in one branch to something in another branch? It's our people that do not understand what is being said. But the Imam, he completely shut Abu Hanifa up. And he asked Abu Hanifa, what gives you the right to give fatwas like this? And then he goes on to say, the Imam, he asked him that I hear that there's a verse of the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that you shall be asked about the blessings that you've been given. You shall be asked about the blessings that you've been given. And the Imam, he says that I hear that you interpret this verse or the word blessings in this verse to mean food and drink. Is that true? And Abu Hanifa, he says, yes, that's true. When he says that, Imam asks him, if someone invited you and fed you food and drink and then showed off with it, what would you say about that person? If someone invited you to their house, they gave you food and drink, and then they showed off with it. This food, how was this food? How was that food? What did you think about it? They showed off with what they gave you. What would you think about them? Abu Hanifa replies that, me personally, I think that they're stingy. I think that this person is stingy. So Imam, he asked him, so do you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is stingy? If you're interpreting the words ni'mah, if you're interpreting the words blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you're saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask you on the day of judgment about the food and drink that He Himself, He provided you, are you saying that He is stingy? Abu Hanifa, he goes, Yabna Rasulullah, then what's the true interpretation? He goes, the ni'mah that you will be asked about is the wilayat of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala the ni'mah, the blessings that you will be asked about is the love of Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. That is what you will be. That is the ni'mah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask you about. Not about food and drink. You yourself, you say that if someone was to invite me to their house and they asked me after I ate and drank there, that person is stingy. And you want to say the same thing about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Abu Hanifa, he stayed quiet. It wasn't just the Imam who would teach Abu Hanifa. Just the servants of the Imam, they themselves would show Abu Hanifa that he thinks he's a scholar. You look at the stories of Bahlul and how he reacted or how he acted with Abu Hanifa. What does Bahlul do? Abu Hanifa, he's on the minbar and he's giving a dars on aqaid and philosophy. And while giving that dars, he says that there isn't anything that isn't visible. Everything has to be visible. On the day of judgment, God will be visible. And you see that in the Sunni school of thought, they have that belief that on the day of judgment that people will see God. So, 1, 2, that everything that we do is from God. Every action that we do is not ours, but it is from God. He was saying this, Bahlul, he was just listening. And Bahlul, he is someone who studied under the Imams. So what does Bahlul do? He takes clay and he throws it straight on Abu Hanifa's face. He throws it straight on his face. And what happens? He starts bleeding and he has pain. So what does he do? He goes and he complains to Harun Rashid. Harun Rashid, he calls Bahlul. He goes, is this true? He goes, what happened? Bahlul, he goes, Harun, what's the matter? He's saying that you struck him with clay. He goes, I struck him with clay? What is he? He's saying that there's pain. He goes, he's the one who went on the minbar and he says that everything should be visible. Everything, there's a possibility of everything being visible. Tell him to let me see where pain is. I can't see it. I want to see pain. Where is it? Abu Hanifa, he's stunned. He goes, Bahlul, he tells the Khalifa, this is what he said from the minbar. Secondly, he said from the minbar that all the actions that we do, it's not our own action, it's the action of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it wasn't me that did it, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that did it. So why is he accusing me of doing it? Why is he accusing me of doing it? Someone who acts crazy, someone who is known to be crazy in the school of thought of the Ahlul Bayt, their ulama are completely dumbfounded in front of them. So how will they be in front of the ulama of the Ahlul Bayt themselves? This was Bahlul. And who was that? That was Abu Hanifa. Abu Hanifa, when he heard both of these replies, he just kept quiet and he left. He kept quiet and he left. But Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, brothers, from a very young age, until the day that he was martyred, he spent his life propagating Islam. And not just fiqh, no. Aqimus Salat. We've heard so many times, Tafsir Burhan, Aqimus Salat, and Khutbat of Amir al-Mu'minin, Khutbat Nurani. Aqimus Salat, Amir al-Mu'minin, he says, and in the Tafasir, they say that Aqimus Salat is what? Keeping up prayers. What does that mean? What is the inner meaning of that? Keeping alive, keeping up the wilayat of Amir al-Mu'minin. So did the Imams themselves, did they themselves do Aqimus Salat? Did they themselves keep up the wilayat of Amir al-Mu'minin? Every chance they got. Every chance they got. Amir al-Mu'minin, when he came to power, every chance he got, he let people know about his wilayat. Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he let them know. Imam Hussain alayhi salam, he sacrificed his life for that Amr bil Ma'ruf. That Amr bil Ma'ruf was that wilayah. Imam Zainul Abidin, every Imam, until the 12th Imam. So Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam wasn't different. He let people know. Harun Rashid, he let them know. The Abbasids, he let them know. All of the Khulafa, anyone that came and debated with the Imam, he would let them. Whether they accepted or not, that's something completely different. But they would all know, and the Imam himself, he practiced that Aqimus Salat, or that inner meaning of Salat that Imam Ali alayhi salam said to practice. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يسينا معه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بهد الهمم ولا يناله غوث الفتن الذي ليس لصفته حد محدود ولا نعت موجود ولا وقت محدود ولا أجل ممدود فترى الخلائق بقدرته ونشر الرياح برحمته وهو ابتدى بالسخر ما يدعى نعرف ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وحبيبنا وحبيب رب العالمين بالقاسم محمد اللهم صل على نبينا محمد وآله وإمام المسلمين أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب وعلى سيدة النساء العالمين فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين صلوات الله عليها وعلى سيد الشباب أهل الجنة الحسن والحسين عليهما السلام اللهم صل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي اللهم صل على مولانا حجة بن الحسن صاحب العصر والزمان اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرزك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. اللهم صل على محمد. Inshallah, brothers, Salat al-Jummah, the same way I do every Friday when I'm here, 2 rakat prayer. In the first rakat, after the second surah, it is going to be qunut and then ruku. In the second rakat, it's going to be ruku and then qunut. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. اللهم صل على محمد. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. اللهم صل على محمد. أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين علي حجة الله. أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين علي حجة الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. لا إله إلا الله الحليم الكريم. لا إله إلا الله العلي العظيم. سبحان الله رب السماوات السبع ورب الأرضين السبع وما فيهن وما بينهن ورب العرش العظيم. والحمد لله رب العالمين. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته يقوم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. لا إله إلا الله الحليم الكريم. لا إله إلا الله العلي العظيم. سبحان الله رب السماوات السبع ورب الأرضين السبع وما فيهن وما بينهن ورب العرش العظيم. والحمد لله رب العالمين. Allahu Akbar. Subhanallah, 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 Subhana Rabbi al-Ala wa bihamdih. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahu Akbar. Astaghfirullah Rabbi wa atubu ilayh. Allahu Akbar. Subhanallah, 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 Subhana Rabbi al-Ala wa bihamdih. Ya wali al-afi, sarika al-afi wa afiyat ad-din wa ad-dunya wa al-akhirah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabi wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillahi salihin. Assalamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Allahu Akbar. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. 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 Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. اللهم صل على محمد. أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين علي حجة الله. أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين علي حجة الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته يا الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. لا إله إلا الله الحليم الكريم. لا إله إلا الله العلي العظيم. سبحان الله رب السماوات السبع ورب الأرضين السبع وما فيهن وما بينهن ورب العرش العظيم. والحمد لله رب العالمين. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بحول الله وقوته يقوم. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر.
سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته يقوم. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. يا ولي العافية صلك العافية وعافية الدين والدنيا والآخرة. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله. شكرا. السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا صديقة فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا حسن المجتبى. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا غريب الغرباء يا أبا عبد الله. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا علي بن الحسين. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا محمد بن علي. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا جعفر بن محمد. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا موسى بن جعفر. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا علي بن موسى. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا محمد بن علي. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا علي بن محمد. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا حسن بن علي. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب العصر الزمان. علمان 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 من الفتن الزمان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وزهورك وجعلنا من أنصارك ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم استغفر
محمد.
عليكم السلام. It's not. It's Zohar Nasr is not meant to be